In the news this morning, I want to cover with you the High Court decision with regards to the CIPC certificates. Now, yesterday I just gave you a brief update on this, and there was obviously huge interest with regards to this breaking news at the time. In the High Court of the Republic of South Africa, Gauteng Division, Pretoria, so this is where the case took place, and it was Saka Liga, who was the applicant, and the President of the Republic of South Africa, and 8 others, who were all the respondents in this case. The order of the judge was as follows. It is declared that the directions issued by the Minister of Small Business Development, the 7th respondent, on 12th of May 2020 under Government Notice R522 in the Government Gazette 34406 are illegal and invalid. So the order starts off straight away just saying that what they had declared and decided to do with regards to asking people to re-register for essential service CIPC certificates was illegal and invalid. The second comment, the 7th respondent is ordered to pay the applicant's costs relating to the relief sought in respect of the directive issued by the 7th respondent on the 12th of May 2020. Such costs to include the cost of senior counsel. Obviously, the government is using our taxpayers' money, so at the end of the day, they're not paying for it, we are. So the fact that our government is actually breaking the law continuously is costing us, the taxpayers, more money. And that is why we need to change this governance system. If you elect the president directly, he can be personally held liable. And when he's taken to court, he can bear the costs of that case if he acts illegally. Within this party system, you get stuck and hidden inside this gang where you are protected, and this has to stop, people. This is why I'm advocating for a change of the electoral system where we elect our public officials directly and where parties only exist to basically get support for a specific ideology. So I mean, parties won't fall away, but they won't elect the people that represent us. We will elect them, and that makes a huge difference. Now, the reasons for this. The application sought a declaratory order that the 6th respondent, the Commission for Intellectual Property and Companies, which I'll just call the CIPC, has no authority to issue essential service permits or certificates to enable any company or closed corporation to conduct essential or permitted services in terms of the regulations issued under the Disaster Management Act, the so-called Level 4 regulations, and further ancillary declaratory orders. The applicant contended that the instruction by the Minister of Trade and Industry and Competition to the CIPC to issue such certificates is not authorized by the Level 4 regulations, and that the CIPC, being a creature of statute, does not have the power in terms of the Companies Act to issue such certificates. So it's absolutely a violation of any kind of rights given to businesses. Point 3. It was submitted on behalf of the respondents that the 3rd respondent merely requested the CIPC to issue certificates to companies and closed corporations who register as essential service providers on the CIPC BizPortal website, and that the CIPC certificates expressly state that the possession thereof was still subject to a business complying with the definition of an essential service business in the regulations. Which means you offered the certificate, but your business might still not be able to operate because you still have to comply with the regulations of the specific lockdown. Makes absolutely no sense. I also went through this process and it was completely pointless. It was further submitted that the certificates only provide bona fide evidence that a particular business was a provider of essential services and that it was a nice to have. These people, it is so frustrating to read these things, but I'm so glad that the courts are finding this and making this clear. And I want you to understand how your rights as a person trying to make a living has been violated, because many people don't have access to the internet, couldn't actually change their certificates to actually start practicing. And they were stopping people at roadblocks left, right and center asking for their certificates and permits to travel. Otherwise you were arrested or turned around. The application was heard by me via Zoom on 28th of May 2020. On 29th of May 2020, the Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, the 2nd respondent, issued new regulations which will apply during level 3 of the lockdown, and which amend and add to the level 4 regulations. So sometimes when they go down in level, they actually give you more restrictions, and people need to be aware of this, because if you read the government gazette like I do each time new regulations come out, you will see that they actually entrap you more than the previous level in many cases. In terms of regulation 46.1, all businesses and other institutions may operate except those set out in table 2. So they say all businesses may operate in level 3 except for very specific ones that are mentioned. Now that's probably the best way to tackle that, because it stops any confusion like we had under level 4 and level 5. There is no reference to essential services in the level 3 regulations, so anyone can practice businesses except for those excluded. Table 2 also provides that all persons that are able to work from home must do so, but that all persons will be permitted to perform any type of work outside the home and to travel to and from work and for work purposes under Alert Level 3, subject to strict compliance with health protocols and social distancing measures, and certain further conditions. In terms of Regulation 16 of the Level 4 regulations, a person could only leave home for work purposes if it was to perform an essential or permitted service as allowed in Alert Level 4 and had to be in possession of a permit, which corresponds with Form 2 of Annexure A. In terms of Regulation 28.4 of the Level 4 regulation, such permits had to be issued by the head of an institution, whether public or private, or a person designated by him. Having considered the Level 3 regulations, I inquired from Council whether the CIPC certificate issue had not, as a result, become academic, which it obviously has. Counsel for the respondent submitted submissions in which it was contended that the issue had not become academic because of the provisions of Regulation 3.1 and 3.2. Those regulations provide that the second respondent may determine by notice in the Gazette which of levels 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 apply at a national, provincial, metropolitan or district level or in a hotspot, which is absolutely impossible to administrate or regulate. I mean, the government knows. Even President Cyril Ramaphosa said in his briefing with SANEF, the South African National Editors Forum, that he realized it's impossible to actually police this, what they are proposing. So even he admitted it. It was submitted that part or all of the Republic may be returned to Alert Level 4 or 5, in which event the current status quo would be restored. The applicant agreed with the submission in supplementary heads of argument. It also made certain further submissions which, in my view, did not take the matter any further. Now the courts, it's difficult for them to make decisions when government is threatening to change different lockdown levels, because they can only judge on what is currently in force, or wherever we transition to from 5 to 4 or 4 to 3. I respectfully disagree with Council submissions. As matters stand, all businesses and institutions may operate, save those mentioned in Table 2. Businesses which provide essential services are no longer singled out as the only businesses which are permitted to operate, and for whom the CIPC certificates were issued. The requirement, if it was a requirement for a business which performs an essential service to be in possession of such a certificate, has clearly fallen away. So they're saying there's no requirement for that anymore. The possibility that the whole of the country or specific parts thereof may return to level 4 or level 5 is at this stage mere speculation. It may happen or it may not happen. There is currently no provision or need for the issuing of CIPC certificates, even if the issue thereof was previously lawful. And this I made clear in my first submission to you on this case, that even if it was legal before, it doesn't mean that it needs to apply now, and this is how this judge has ruled. No enforcement officer is therefore entitled to demand the production of a CIPC certificate by any business, whatever the nature of the business, and will act unlawfully if he does so, or if he or she arrests or fines or take any action against any person for failing to produce a certificate. And this is really the crux of the matter. You don't have to produce a certificate, and if the police or anyone asks you for it, arrest you for it, fine you or take action, it is being declared illegal because of a certificate. In view of the foregoing, it would be inappropriate to make any finding in respect of the declaratory relief directed at the CIPC issue. I accordingly also do not make any cost order in respect of the CIPC issue. The 7th respondent, the Minister of Small Business Development, issued directions on 12th of May 2020 in which she directed that a number of categories of businesses must be in possession of a business license or permit to trade issued in accordance with the Business Act, or a business license or trading permit by the relevant municipality. The categories are small-scale bakeries and confectionery, small-scale hardware store, informal and small-scale restaurants, and shishanyamas, trades referred to as artisanry for rendering necessary repair work, including plumbers, electricians, locksmiths, glaziers, roof repair work, tow trucks, vehicle recovery, and motor mechanics. Small-scale motor body repair shops, fitment centers, sole traders in the clothing, textile, and confectionery business, and cooperatives. Of the listed categories, 2, namely hardware stores and artisans, do not require and cannot be issued with licenses or permits in terms of the Business Act. The Business Act only applies to the sale and supply of perishable foodstuffs, certain health and entertainment facilities, and the hawking of meals or perishable foodstuffs. Hardware stores and the listed artisans will therefore not be able to obtain a license in terms of the Business Act and will as a result be prevented from trading. Furthermore, trades such as vehicle service centers, fitment centers, and body repair workshops who do not require a license or trade permit from a local authority are now required to obtain such a license or permit, which the local authority is not authorized to issue. It follows that the 7th respondent exceeded her powers and that the directions which she issued on 12th of May 2020 are accordingly unlawful and invalid. That's quite an indictment on the Minister of Small Businesses. For the court to judge that she exceeded her powers and that the directions which she issued are accordingly unlawful and invalid. This once again comes back to the fact that we have people in government that have not been properly qualified or tested for the positions that they occupy. And if you go to my series, Question Everything, then you will see that in 5A, 5B, and in 6, in those videos, I make clear why our people are not qualified and why they should be. I also make clear why we need a new governance and electoral system. And I will keep on saying this. People will probably get sick of it. But we need to change the electoral system. And I want all of you to start talking about that. Put pressure on the political parties or organizations that you support. Tell them that you need to change the system, that I want to elect my president directly, because then we can remove him easily. He can't hide behind a party, he or she can't hide. The same with the premiers and the mayors. Only local councillors can stand as independent candidates currently. And this is a problem. This is a very big problem. The mayor is voted for by the council. The premier is elected by a party. The president is elected by parliament, not by us. And I will do a separate video on that today, because this is an urgent matter that needs to be addressed. And I need all my subscribers to start realizing that we have to put pressure and spread the word. Put pressure on all the political parties, the ANC, EFF, DA, Freedom Front Plus, ACDP, Good, everyone that's there. And tell them that they should all push for independent election of people. Because our constitution allows that. It says that any independent person should be allowed to be elected. But the IEC rules does not allow this. They want to force you to start a political party. And this is where the gang system mentality starts. And this needs to be stopped at all costs. Thank you for listening to this video. Please subscribe to this channel. Click the bell icon to get notifications. And please share this video with your friends and family. This is a huge victory for businesses. You can go ahead and do your business without applying for any CIPC certification.